How much money should your man make a year?
8 figures.
8 figures.
Ideally.
Ideally, my husband needs to be making like $650,000.
Over $500,000. Over $500,000.
$500,000?
2 million.
I say like $1 million.
I'm thinking about $1 million.
They probably 6 figures minimum.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely 6 figures. 6 figures.
I think 6 figures is definitely decent.
So if you're out there and you make 15 million or better.
Is that bad?
What's up, guys? Hope all is well, and welcome back. Even when they are trying to help, Christians just can't seem to be able to hold women accountable.
A guy who's in his late 20s, early to mid 30s, still doesn't have a woman, still doesn't have children on the horizon, is a very selfish and self-indulgent human being. And he is just going to vote for socialists to take care of him from womb to tomb, rather than being a grown man who carries his own responsibilities for his family.
I don't want any of my income to be needed in the family. I want the man to be 100% the supporter, but that doesn't mean that I'm not gonna work and I'm not gonna have my own business.
Oh, our money is our money, but her money is her money, right? She's earning for herself.
But it's not 50-50 if his money is our money and your money is yours.
Sure. Okay. Oh, guys, I am sorry. You should not have to deal with this. This type of stuff makes me just because I mean not for myself, like I'm doing all right, but it makes me upset for the guys who are asking out girl after girl and getting rejected left, right, and center, and then they go to church and get treated like you're the problem.
This is the kind of things that you experience in the church as a man. This is a preacher who somehow tells people that he was called by God, but he has absolutely no problem with lying and manipulating. Multiple researches have already shown that women are the ones who vote for socialist policies, but preachers never going to talk about it. By the way, that preacher's name is Mark Driscoll, and I have been watching him for quite some time, and I have never heard him talk about the divorce statistics, paternity fraud, abortion, women sexually taking advantage of little boys, OnlyFans. Basically, I have never heard him hold women accountable for their depravity. Or maybe he did, and I just couldn't find it. Anyways, if a man who is in his late 20s and 30s and not married is selfish and self-indulgent, how do you call a woman who gave her virginity to some random man, and have slept with some random men all throughout her late teens and 20s, possibly had a child, or children, but then, ask for marriage from a totally new man when she is in her late 20s and 30s?
Now there's a sliver of truth to what he's saying here. There are guys out there who really are that selfish, and they just like, yeah, I'm totally happy to just sit at home and watch porn and play video games, and I don't actually want a real woman in my life. My life's great.
How much should a wedding ring cost?
$62,000.
We had agreed no more than 3 months of income on his end.
I think a wedding ring should cost as much as is in your couple's budget, but mine personally is going to cost around $600K. $600K. Want either Tiffany Co., Cartier, anything expensive where you could see like a mile away.
There are some outliers who are like that, but if you actually talk to the guys who are single right now, that is nothing like what they're experiencing. They do not want to be single.
I'm 26 years old and never had a girlfriend.
27 years old. Never kissed a girl on the lips before, which of course means I've never had a girlfriend before, never dated anyone before, and it fucking kills me. I'm not gonna lie, it does kill me a lot.
And then they say stuff like this, and it's like they're getting kicked in the face while they're down. And he's getting lit up in the comments for it. The dating scene has been bleeped for the last 5 to 10 years. He's married too long to understand the dating scene is absolutely destroyed. A lot of assumptions here. Omitting entirely an educated man and looking for also a quality one. Not the best English, but I mean, the point is basically, it's not so easy for a decent man even to find a quality woman today who's actually interested in him.
Would I date a guy who brings in $40,000 a year? There's nothing wrong with not wanting to be with somebody because of how much money they make.
Even people who've actually been through this and they got married, look at this, married late, 35, had kids at 38 and 42. So this is just not resonating with anybody's experience out there. And this is really important too. So this commenter points out, so I'm 36 years old, nearly, and we'll be getting married for the first time next year. It's all in God's timing. I mean, there's some stuff you have to do on your end too, but yes, this is really critical. Paul says it's better for you not to be married. That was me. This, by the way, this is not the Church of Jesus. This is stuff from like the Church of the American Way. He's taking his own conclusions about a small group of men and then universally applying it to all young single men, which is not fair at all. And it's actually pretty close to what a lot of feminists are doing to men right now. Lest we forget Jordan Peterson's epic rant about it.
What you're doing is you're taking a tiny substrata of men and using that to represent the entire structure of Western society. There's nothing about that that's vaguely appropriate.
This is not...
No. That's not the Church of the American Way, that's the Church of the Woman Way. The church is a feminist social club. Because only a woman can take her experience and try to make it the norm, only women feel comfortable telling men what to do, but never reflect on what they have to do. Only women are concerned about what others are doing, but never recognize what they have to do on their side. And last but not least, only women are comfortable with telling others the part that they think others have to play and hold them accountable, but never hold themselves accountable for the part that they have to play. I said it in a previous video that women are the ones who control what is acceptable in the church. And holding women accountable is not acceptable in the modern church. Just like corporations pander to women because women have a greater spending power than men. And politicians pander to women because women are the majority of voters. Preachers pander to women because women have a greater giving power than men, and if they don't pander to women, the collection plate is going to be very light. And also, it doesn't help that most of these preachers are crackheads for female validation.
What the church should be. Single men should be welcomed and respected. They should be encouraged and built up too. And that's what's really frustrating about this, is the part that's missing is that there's no solutions offered anywhere in here. It's just a drive-by curb stomp insult. And if you're not offering solutions to people, then all you're doing is complaining. And ain't one single guy out there gonna listen to you complain about them and then respond well to that. This is why the church is shrinking right now. And young men, the people that we need the most, are the demographic that's leaving the fastest. We don't respect them. And I've had a lot of young men comment on my videos saying that they don't feel like the church has anything for them. They feel like the church right now is set up just to benefit married people and parents, and that there's just nothing there for them. There's no help on offer. And my question to guys like this is, do you really think that shaming them is gonna make them go, oh yeah, I guess I should just ask another girl out and get rejected for the 14th time in a row? Thanks, dude, you solved my life. Like, no. When you're saying things like this that won't help people, you're not saying it for them. You're saying it for you. And for all the married guys who resonate with this stuff, because it maybe makes them feel a bit superior.
Well, that's because it's the neutered dogs that bark the loudest. Imagine being under the thumb of a being that dependent on you for their survival, but at the same time make you feel like trash and make it look like you should be honored to take care of them. Of course someone that tamed will want to have a one-up someone else. The church only care about women. Matter of fact, single women are treated better than married men. The priority for preachers is married women, single women, children, married men, and at the bottom, trash, aka single men. The only reason why married men are treated with a hint of respect is because resources can be sucked out of them through their wives. So, the preachers pedestalize women, and in return, the married women give them their husband's money. Because if the preacher dares to go against what makes women feel good, the married women will take their dogs, their husbands, and go to another church. Single men are treated like trash because there's no way to suck money out of them, or to control them into doing something that they don't want to do.
This kind of thing can stroke your pride a bit and make you feel like you're better. It's also cathartic in a way to vent your frustration at all those single people out there who are just turning into socialists and ruining your life. So, I get it. I understand why this feels good for, 13,000 people to hear, but this isn't love. It's the opposite. Love genuinely seeks the other person's benefit at the cost of your own feelings. Does not benefit your own feelings at the other person's cost.
Yeah, that's what the Bible say, but the church is a feminist social club, and last time I checked, feminists consider the Bible to be toxic and a tool of the patriarchy. Feminists only love people they can exploit.
And I wish we were done with this type of stuff, but unfortunately, there's more.
You might be eager to obey the command, but can't find anybody who's willing to marry you. So you have to look at yourself in the way that Paul described marriage in Ephesians 5. He basically says that a husband is like a savior to his wife. And I think the burden really lies with men to see themselves as those who rescue women from loneliness.
We shouldn't be dating that broke guy with all the sweet words.
Because I think it's selfish to be broke.
40K?
40K is a deal breaker.
That's a deal. That's like, oh, absolutely not. No way. Under no circumstance.
No.
Okay, but what if they don't want to be rescued by you? We'll come back to that.
That preacher mentioned Ephesians 5. Go read it for yourself for full understanding because I will flying over it. Basically, the gist of Ephesians 5 is to walk in love towards one another. In the first 5 verses, it talked more about how Jesus Christ saved the church and loved the church so much that he gave himself for the church. And the relationship between Christ and the church is a metaphor for marriage. Now, here's how these preachers use that part to shame men into marrying hoes. They think that because Jesus Christ, who is the head of the church, just like the man is the head of the woman in marriage, sacrificed himself for a church that was not perfect, then men should also be willing to save hoes and make wives out of them. These preachers think that the commands that are in the Bible are only meant for men. They are trying to create a Christ complex in men so that men can make wives out of all the hoes that are in the church. And the second way how they use Ephesians 5 is from the last verses where the Bible talk about wives being submissive to their husbands, and husbands loving their wives as themselves. From that part, the way they try to manipulate men into marrying hoes is by saying, men should love women like themselves. Since men want to be loved for who they are and with all their flaws just like Jesus loves humanity, then men should do the same for women, and love women with all their imperfections. These preachers only want to put the burden on men because putting the burden on women also, which the Bible actually does, will not only reveal that for every man who is not ready to be a husband, there is at least 10 women who don't deserve to be wives.
What I would experience in our society, it's the men that have to step up. And I honestly do not know what in the world they are waiting for. I have threatened many times to line up all the single women on one side, all the single men on the other side, and assign you a wife.
That I did not purchase all of this. Like, you know, I don't date broke guys. So
how much do you think your guy should make?
You should be making the same amount as me.
Same amount as you?
Yeah, I've made 95K in the last month.
The last month, 95K? You think the guy...
Yeah.
Okay, what do you do?
I underwear.
Oh my god. This is painfully out of touch. And the comments know. Like, look at this. From a godly single man, we're stepping up. But no women want us, and it's so hard to find a godly wife who feels the same feelings you do. I'm sorry, guys. I apologize on behalf of this. I suspect that guys who say stuff like this don't see that there's a math problem in the dating world. It's as if many Christian leaders today still have a mental image of the dating world that reflects the 70s or the 90s or whenever it was that they were dating. So in their mind, they're thinking that the average woman would want to date the average man because that's the way it was back then for them.
And just look at how tame those men are. Just because the Bible said that Jesus was meek, most men in the church think that Jesus being meek means that Jesus was a doormat with no standards and that he was okay with whatever people were willing to give him. This preacher is coming from the assumption that all women are deserving of marriage and that it is men who are the problem. Men are the ones who choose their wives, not the other way around. Marriage is dying, not because men don't want to get married. Marriage is dying because, 1, most women are not deserving to be wives, and 2, there is no benefits for men, the risks are not worth the reward. There is no institution to hold women accountable. Not only women and corrupt politicians have hijacked the family court and the legal system, even the ecclesiastic institution, aka, the church, have been corrupt to favor women. Over 50% of marriages end in divorce. Don't hear the church talk about that. Women initiate close to 80% of all divorces. Don't hear the church talk about that. Paternity fraud, child support fraud, false allegations, and let's not forget the disrespect and the sexlessness of most Christian marriages because women use withholding intimacy from their husbands in order to get power over their husbands. These are things that are going on in the world, not only the world, and even in the church, but all of these preachers never talk about them. This is not being out of touch. The Bible tells us not to conform to the world. How can you be able not to conform to the world if you are out of touch with the things that are going on in the world you are living in? These preachers know exactly what is going on, they just don't want to hold women accountable, because holding women accountable is bad for business.
So it makes sense to them that if the average woman would date the average man, but nobody's dating, it must just be because the men aren't stepping up. Logically, that makes sense. The problem is, the landscape has changed. Yes, the average man does want to date the average woman, statistically speaking, but the average woman has no interest in the average man. You have to be significantly above average for a woman to show any interest in you at all.
Men and women were asked if they got 80% of everything they want in their ideal mate, would they be happy with that? And women said, no, that's settling. And men said, 80%, I'd be thrilled, that's a catch.
And unfortunately, it's not that different in the church. So
the landscape hasn't changed. It is the moral values that have changed. Just like in the secular world, the church holds men and women to different moral standards. The church tells men to do what is right, while it tells women that women should do what is right for themselves. The church used the word of God to tell men how to behave, but use it to tell women that, it doesn't matter what they do, God will forgive them and give them a husband. All the preachers in the church know that most women in the church are not that different from women in these streets. But they purposefully choose not to point out women's shortcomings and hold women accountable for their bad behavior. Just like corporations and politicians. Preachers know that, holding women accountable, is bad for business.
you have this math problem, where about 80% of the women really only want 20% of the men, but that leaves 80% of the men with only 20% of the women, and that's just not enough to go around for all of them mathematically, right? You're left with 60% in the middle who there is not a willing woman that's available for them. So for leaders like this, it seems that they still believe that there's this sort of equilibrium between men and women and that things are relatively fair and balanced between the sexes in the dating world. They are not. And the comments know this. My frustration is I can never seem to find the women he describes. Every time I do, they're either not interested or spoken for. And these days, many women say one thing but are actually completely different. Being an introvert doesn't help me much either, so I'll just continue doing my single thing until God brings me someone. Like, this makes me kind of sad. Because we're not helping guys understand what the actual problems here are and how to navigate the underlying fundamentals of it. Women don't want to be wives anymore. I know that's a generalization, but that has been my experience. I have yet to find an eligible woman that wants to be a wife, not just married. Interesting take. This one makes me just sad, like glad my plight could be the opening joke. Yep, I can't find a woman who wants me. I want to provide, but sharing Christ wherever he calls is more important than a big house or fancy car. I want a meaningful life over a comfy one. Just wish someone else wanted that too. He's got a point. Most Christian women today, their biggest priority isn't necessarily sharing the gospel, it's having kids. And they want a man who's going to be able to provide well for their kids and be able to give a good environment for them, which is not necessarily wrong. That's a part of their mission, and that's a big part of the purpose of marriage. But
this is why I hate being around Christians. Even though I'm a Christian myself, I hate Christians' company because of this kind of BS. Even when they are trying to help, they will always dance around the problem, especially if the problem is caused by women. The fact in the matter is that Christian women lust over the same material possessions that non-Christian women lust over. They want the money, the lifestyle, and they don't want to have to work for it. The difference is that Christian women hide it behind the children. Again, I'm going to point at Proverbs 31 and other women in the Bible. Yes, the man is the primary provider. But the only provision most Christian and non-Christian modern women want is money.
We're not helping guys navigate that in any meaningful way. And this is just making things worse. They don't seem to have looked at the data. They don't know the charts. And so I try not to take it as a judgment on their character because it seems like they just don't know.
You serious?
They're not down in the trenches, and they haven't been for decades. So to be clear, I don't think this stuff is really malicious or antagonistic, although some of it might be. It could just be that their mental image of the dating world is still a few decades out of date. So before we get too upset, I think we all need to just have a little bit of grace for them. I know I certainly do. Like I struggle to remain calm sometimes when I see this stuff. Again, like I'm doing fine, but like it frustrates me because I was that guy for 30 plus years, not understanding how the dating world worked at all and thinking that God just wanted me to suffer and be alone when the reality was, no, I just didn't understand how it worked.
Wow. These are preachers, called to lead the people and bring people to Christ, but they are not aware of what is going on in the world culturally speaking. Even though the Bible tells us to be observant of our environment, learn from nature, and not to conform ourselves to the world's culture. I said earlier, how are you not going to conform to the world if you have no idea of what is going on in the world? So, these preachers being ignorant of what is going on in the world should not be considered as an attack to their character. Really? Okay. Imagine a CEO being totally ignorant of what is going in the business environment. Or a doctor being totally ignorant of the latest discoveries in the medical field. We can all agree that in both of those cases their reputation will be hit hard. The Bible has been around for thousands of years, and without the shadow of a doubt, it is still very much relevant. But somehow church leaders are ignorant of what is happening in the world. Let me tell you what is really happening. They know what is happening. They are just chalking the truth. And the reason why they are chalking the truth is because the truth is inconvenient. The Bible tells Christians not to conform to the world, and yet this dude just said that Christians should date like everybody else in the world. But again, what do you expect when at least 60% of all single women in churches came from the street?
I'm not really saying this to these guys or even for them. It's not like they're ever going to see any of this stuff. I'm saying this to the guys who have either left already or are considering leaving the church altogether because this is the type of stuff that they get when they show up. Utter contempt and disrespect, shame, horribly inaccurate assumptions about the way things work out there right now, and nothing even resembling help. I want to speak to those guys and let them know that it's not all like this. This is not a good representation of what the church is like. There are guys in the church who believe in you and want to help and have the tools to help you deal with the stuff that you're facing. But my point is, not all of the church is like this. There are places where you'll be welcomed, respected, and helped. You just probably have to dig a while to find one, unfortunately.
Back in the day you had to dig and look for a church where the vision and the mission aligned with your personal vision so that you can better serve God. But now, you have to dig and look for a church where you are not treated like trash as a man. Indeed, how the turntables.
And for the guys who kind of just quit on the dating scene already or thinking about it, all I'd ask is that you try maxing out your stats first. Make the absolute most you can out of everything that God's given you before you decide that it can't be done. And I know guys will say in the comments, yeah, but I shouldn't have to do that. She should just love me with whatever God has given me and whatever situation God's placed me in. I talk a bit more about the stuff that women are actually checking you for and why in this video right here. I'll put a link to that at the end. But the hard truth is that God is not going to give you one of his daughters to take care of just because you exist.
Did you hear that? Absolutely no mention of what a man will get in return, and absolutely no mention of what a woman must do in order to be worthy of marriage. And that is because in those people's minds, a woman deserves marriage just because she exists. He said that God is not going to give one of his daughters to a man just because he exists. Does that also apply to women? Is God okay with his sons having to choose wives from a pool of entitled, disrespectful, promiscuous, lazy, undisciplined women?
The last month, 95K, you think I got...
Yeah.
Okay, what do you do?
I underwear.
Okay.
I'm just going to end with this. No woman is in the obligation to lower her standards just so that she can have husband. And no man is in the obligation to meet a woman's standards just so that he can have a wife. Guys, if a woman does not add to your life, I'm talking about Proverbs 31 kind of woman, if she doesn't fit that profile, it is better for you to be alone. Responsibility without authority is called slavery. As a man, do what is beneficial to you, do what fulfill you, not what people tell you what should be fulfilling, especially not women. As long as what you are doing is moral, and doesn't set you on the path to be exploited. Do what is best for you, and your mental health. Focus on yourself, and only add to your life people who will add to what you already have and build you up. Do not allow leeches in your life. And please, for the love of God, don't be a captain save a hoe. There is no honor, respect, or dignity in being married to the town's bicycle. That will be it for this one. Thanks for watching. Have a good one.
the numbers of when it comes to suicides, when it comes to homelessness, when it comes to prisons, the numbers of men in these situations are astronomically higher than women. And then this same guy read a lot of the feedback from women, and it was horrible. They were celebrating the fact that men are three times more likely to commit suicide. And it's no wonder good men in this world are backing away from women and saying, look, this is not right.